Welcome to another episode of The Change, where we introduce you to people and ideas shaping MENA region. We have a very interesting guest today. He is a professional boxer and a quite successful entrepreneur. That sounds pretty cool.
Don't know about successful yet. I'm getting there.
He is a 7-time All-Ireland amateur boxing champion with 200 fights under his belt. This is probably the coolest intro that I'm doing so far. Most of them won by KO. He is a winner of Golden Glove World Championships. He turned pro in 2016, and since then he has had 13 fights with 12 wins.
Yeah, one unfortunate draw.
Now, while developing his professional as a professional athlete, he also developed several successful businesses. He moved to Dubai and he worked with Jado Pero, an e-commerce marketplace acquired by Noon in 2017. Then he co-founded Farfill, logistics and supply chain company specializing in e-commerce fulfillment. And he recently co-founded a beachwear brand called Aya. So without further ado, I would like to welcome to this episode of The Change, Mr. Rohan Date.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, man.
Good to have you here, man. Or should I say, are we ready to rumble? Oh, crazy.
Thank you, though. Thank you for having us here.
How's your week so far, man?
Crazy. What's going to, like, the guys are going to even kill me that I'm here right now. We're pretty much onboarding and offloading like so much product right now.
Yeah.
They were like, "Where you're going? Where for 2 hours?" I was like, "Well,
shooting a podcast. They'll
understand. I think after
they will thank you in a couple of months when the views start coming in." So you've been you have kind of two sides of your kind of professional career. One is a professional boxing career, and another one is a professional as a successful and professional businessman. But I want to start with first boxing. Because it's very interesting your path and how you kind of grew up as a professional athlete and then moved to Dubai and then started building your professional career, started a couple of businesses. I think a lot of listeners will be curious, how do you first of all, how did you start boxing? What kind of got you into the sport?
So yeah, I think I think it's kind of a normal transaction. My brother was doing kickboxing / boxing when we were very young. I would have seen him obviously going training every day, and then it was about 8-9 years old, and I followed him down to the boxing club one day, and I was in every sport. I had a lot of energy when I was a kid. I have a lot of energy now, to be fair. And my mom had me in every sport you can imagine: athletics, Irish games, football. And boxing was just the one that seemed to stick. And when all the other sports said that it's time to focus on one sport and leave them go, I let all the other sports go and I stayed at boxing.
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of people, including myself, all of us probably when we were younger had we were flirting with athletes and sport careers, kind of working out on a lot of different kind of sports. But what I'm curious about is what makes a good boxer. It's from the probably an average person looking at a box probably don't see deep enough into this sport and how actually difficult it is and how challenging it is psychologically and physically. What makes a good boxer?
That is an interesting one, because I went to college and pretty much tried to base some of the studies around it around boxing. And one thing that I did with my thesis was kind of looking at different boxers about which levels they're at. Their state and trait anxiety is actually what my thesis was about. And I was trying to find there's no boxer that's the same and that you could put under the same umbrella. Like, you've got completely different characteristics and different people in boxing that I can't. That's a question I couldn't even answer. I was trying to understand about what people's mental state is when they're at the trait side, when there's no competition, and then when there is competition, what heightens them, what gets them excited. Some people listen to classical music, some people listen to rock, some people there's completely different barriers. Some guys have gone in the ring under the influence, have gone in and that has happened for generations of boxing. And to answer that question, it would take someone. Yeah, definitely.
If I kind of rephrase the question, but it still kind of it still stays the same. But what makes a successful athlete? There is you're starting as a kid, you're hyped about it, everyone is working out, you're going to trainings together, everything is cool. You reached one point in your age, probably some teenage age, where a lot of kids are dropping. What motivates you to stay on track and to push through this hard period and actually become, accomplished athlete? What keeps you going? What motivated you?
I think the big thing for me, and I've only started to realize it like very recently, is about surrounding yourself with really good people. And there's people that have been kind of like support structures and networks that I didn't even know I was a part of. Boxing's a bit of a strange one. It's kind of strange how I stayed on it, but if you look at football, if you look at like tennis or academies, there's structures in place for kind of grassroots sports. Boxing's not really like that. The amateur scene in Ireland is pretty decent, but for me, when I reached that stage in my life, if I didn't go to college, I would have been full-time boxing. But I would have been full-time boxing, but not getting paid. So there was like a what do I do at this point? And I was very lucky to come from the school that I went to back home in Ireland, that I had a teacher that helped me get into a scholarship. A scholarship got me into university. I did university while I did full-time high performance with the Irish team, and I just felt that's always just a strive on both angles. But then I look at it now about the guys that were on that team with me that went on to the Olympics and won medals and won world championships, that they were just doing one thing. And then in my mind, I'm like, should I have done that? And that's kind of where the professional side of sport has kind of come now, and it's sort of a way I've kept business a little bit separate, but also been very involved.
Yeah, but it's amazing that you mentioned, for example, when I was younger in my college day, I was rowing. And you have kind of two groups of sports. You have these groups of sports that can potentially give you a very nice life. Let's say football, basketball, and these popular sports that you can actually pay for living with those sports. But then there are some other sports where the chances that you're actually going to earn enough throughout your professional career to actually support yourself and your family are very slim. And it's interesting that you mentioned that with these sports is equally important that you have kind of a plan B in your back pocket, which is a professional career. But you can't really succeed if you're having a plan B all the time. You have to be focused all the time.
I know, and that was kind of like I wouldn't call it a negative aspect. I looked at my amateur career. About there was a time I was doing that. I was working, I was training, and I was going to college as well at the same time. So there were all them three that was not working and coinciding.
And it's expected from you to give 100% on each side, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no other way about it. And
but you did achieve it.
Did achieve it, and I went through the really hard places to get there. You know what I mean? For me, and I recently just did another kind of video shoot about it, about reaching the Olympics was the thing that I wanted to do, and that was put into that mindset at a very young age. And you see that in really high performance sport, where once you kind of have that one vision and one goal, and that's what it was for 5-6 years. It goes, you're going to be perfect at this age to do this and this. And then I obviously dropped off when I was about 2012, and then I was about 17. I look at the guys then that went to the 2016 Olympics in Rio. One guy, like two of them, I knew quite well. I boxed them. We were very competitive together. I bet one of them. The other one bet me, but like by margins. If I waited 4 more years, what could have been? And that's my approach now with professional boxing, is that I don't want to leave that kind of like what could have been aspect to it. And that's where last year, about 2 years now, I brought myself to London, put myself in between some of the best boxers in the UK and some world level boxers right now. And I fared out okay, but it took me a year to get back to where I was as an amateur, I think. So at one point in your career, it was 2012, right? You were trying to get to the Olympics. Things didn't work out, and then you kind of pulled back a bit. You made a kind of a break, but then you decided to get back to boxing again after that. 3 years out of the ring. 3 years.
3 years out of the ring.
3 years out of the ring. 2013, I went to... So this is where we just spoke about, where what makes it highly successful. I went to that World Golden Gloves, and if I'm really honest, I wasn't training them. Like, it's probably the worst shape I've ever entered in a competition.
But it's a big competition.
Big competition.
For amateur boxing, right?
Huge competition. Golden Gloves, like Ali, Tyson, they're all winners of the Golden Gloves. So it's very prestigious.
So just to put the conversation in the right context, you won a championship that was won by Tyson and Ali before you.
Yeah, if you look at like their golden gloves, it's like one of the cutest,
really
the biggest
thing. Yeah.
I bet USA in like the semi-final, and then I bet the Mexican in the final.
Wow.
Who's now 21-0 with Golden Boy.
Wow.
Carlos Sanchez. Yeah. So I'm hoping if I look at it, I'm at 13 fights. He's on 21 or 22 now.
Mm-hmm.
If I stayed boxing 3 years previous, we would be in collision course. I would to fight each other.
Wow.
Well, hopefully he gets a title, and then that makes a good story.
Wow, that's an amazing. So then after 3 years, you made a break. You decided to come back to boxing, but now as a professional boxer, right?
I did. The way I got into it was complete. Like, so when I was finishing the amateurs, even for the guys, when 2008 Beijing, when we had some like friends of mine now that one guy, two of them won silver actually in the Olympics, and they came back. They were literally celebrities back home. But like even watching the Olympics, that's kind of what captured it for me, and that whole drive with it. But none of them ever went pro after it.
Yeah,
it was never a thing. They stayed amateur. They got well funded at the time, and there was no decision really to go pro with that. And I never saw an outlet to go pro. I know some pro boxers at the time, but I never really thought of them as anything. And then all of a sudden, now that I've turned pro, I can kind of, like, there was no avenue. When I finished amateurs, there was no avenue to go down pro. There's no sponsors in Ireland. There's no funding. Pretty much you have to sell tickets to pretty much get yourself a pay. Not even a pay, just to cover expenses.
Yeah.
And that was the start. And I never thought of that as an idea. So 3 years, how I fell into boxing. I was training in a gym here, round 10. Ahmed Siddiqui rang, said, do you want to fight in a week's time? I was like, yeah, sure. And I thought it was going to be like an easy fight. It ended up being probably one of the toughest fights I've had so far. But my first fight was a really good, like, fit kickboxing guy, but he was from a rival gym. He had done boxing, like, and I never thought the idea of translating other sports into professional boxing. But obviously, look at Conor McGregor, look at Mayweather, what's happened with all that. It can happen. But this guy was fit, he was very strong. Took 4 rounds, and if I probably didn't knock him out in the 4th round, I probably would have drawn the fight. I think actually, But I was just like, wow, it was terrible there.
But you know what? I mean, when you mention McGregor and other, champions, being a professional athlete means a successful professional athlete means that you have a certain mindset that is also kind of a prerequisite for being a successful businessman. And you're surrounded by people who are also successful athletes, which also means that, there was patience. They were kind of, pushing through hard times. They were working out, practicing for years and years and years. That's kind of shaping you in a certain individual, which means that you end up in a network that can be supportive for your business later on.
Definitely.
Right? Definitely. And you've been probably a lot over. How many years have you been fighting now? Totally 15, 12, 20?
Yeah, about 15
something.
Years, so yeah.
What are like some of the biggest lessons that you can take out from all these years in sport that you can transfer to life?
So actually, it's funny that I kind of figured this more out being in Dubai and being around successful people that are not just, for me, in that realm that I was in, I was only around successful boxers and seeing their mindset. I came to Dubai, I ended up being around successful businessmen, and I've worked them with like 2 amazing CEOs of 2 big companies and corporations, and I've seen their mindset and how they view things and their patience, and there's a number of different attributes I take out of that professional athlete and the professional business or financier. There's a number of different characteristics you take, and you start pushing yourself into that kind of similar pattern, and it's kind of how I try to structure my day or the month or where your goal setting is all the time.
But there's actually a lot of things that you can, if you compare business and sport, and being achieving hitting targets and goals in both requires organization, agenda, repetitive work, practicing.
It's that discipline of
patience,
everything,
discipline.
Bringing it all together.
And you, at the moment, you are successfully balancing between the two, between your sport.
I don't know if it's been successful. I'm looking at Amir Qasim is a business partner with, and Amir is. We actually had another business. I left Noon about 2017, 18. This is a funny enough story actually. I told me and him we're going to set up a business and we're going to set up in fitness. All right, so that's my background being in fitness. The idea was to create technology for sport and to favor it in some way. And we had some friends that had some other businesses, and it just came into one of these random, really random partnerships. it's funny just how they align. And we were all said like we're going to do a business and we're going to achieve it or something. The day I was leaving Noon, we had set up the other business, and we ended up making a lot of money in one day, right, from that business. Just from, it was like a sign up thing for it, and we continued with that business for a while. And what happened about 7 months into the business, we started creating completely different products for this business. So we were going to start doing retreats and all this kind of stuff. But one of our biggest things was like payment gateways, and out of that he created LunaTap. I don't know if you might know of it. LunaTap now actually they relabeled their name to Nomad, which is a payment gateway, pretty similar to PayPal for the region. Yeah. So like I then went on a different route. I ended up getting a sponsorship thing for boxing, and we both kind of like dissolved that. But we were building other businesses out of this at the time. But
we very rapidly went from being a boxing champion to mentioning payment gateways and other business stuff. Where did this business half of yours came from?
I had it from a very young age, and my friends probably think I'm the biggest imaginative person. And I think being back home, where like obviously I love all my friends and stuff like that, but I could see them as like ideas and how you could be able to monetize this. And now being here, when I say a crazy idea to a friend here, it's like, yeah, we'll make a business out of it, or we can make it into something. I've got friends here that own like restaurants, or they've got like rental companies, and like they've got a number of different things, and it's amazing to hear that idea. And that's kind of where we now have Farfill, and we realized like the problem is people don't know how to operate an actual successful business. They can do, some people are amazing at marketing. We know some people that the most amazing marketing people, operationally running a business, running people, running teams. We kind of take all that headache away from them. We've seen that kind of gap and scope for people to be able to do that. And I think that's the genius kind of Farfill right now.
Yeah, and as you said, the market itself is giving you the opportunity to. It's kind of a playground. It's a platform. You can't launch a business in any other market that kind of easily as you can do here. And I think that's amazing that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So you've been and I keep on saying successfully, and you keep on saying, well, it's not that successfully. You're too humble, you know.
but I even look at it for like now we're talking about a boxing career, like I have a boxing career when it's over, to look back in it, and I suppose it might never not that it won't ever be over, but there's never going to be a time where you go, I'm at the top with business. Course, you can be 20, 30, 40 years. So I suppose.
But you've been managing to balance between sport and business. And how challenging is that? Like what do you need to do? How your day looks like to actually
COVID has brought it back to slowing it down completely. I'm more focused on the business, and the business grew tenfold over the last.
So most of your time you're spending with Farfill at the moment, and then
pretty much, and then one if not 2 sessions a day at the minute. But before that, you're looking at 3 sessions a day. Wow. I had 3 fights back to back, March, December I think last year, in November or September. So I had all them 3 fights in Dubai, and that was fortunate. I didn't have to travel anywhere, so it was pretty much go to the gym in the morning, go to the warehouse after that, go back to the gym for lunch, warehouse, and then you're up all night emailing and catching up on everything.
But there are people who can't function any other way. You are either all in, like working 18 hours, working out and working 18 hours a day, sleeping for 6 hours, or you're not doing anything.
That's what that's I'd be fully in depth and submerged with this. What happened is I brought myself to London in 2009, like early 2019. Went over to England. I said, look, I'm going to do boxing. I'm going to get back to where I was as an amateur, that fitness, the mindset, everything, and train at 6 a.m. Stayed in bed till 10, 11, went back and trained. I just did that every day, and it got very repetitive. It's what you need to do to be able to achieve that side of it. What happened is I just wasn't stimulating my brain enough, give myself something like a different avenue to escape. And for me, business is enjoyable. Building something like it. My business partner, that's why it's so funny that he likes the slow idea and bring it like that. But for me, the other business where we made a lot in one day, it was like, this is how we want to keep doing it and keep doing it. But now I think getting a little bit older, I'm starting to get that patience and see the small building blocks, make it secure, put on the next block, and that's where I think we want to go and achieve.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there is another interesting comparison that we can make, and in sports, every athlete has a coach, right? but every businessman also has a mentor. Do you have any mentors that you're surrounded with?
Yeah, well, so what I've really, like, again, I hate looking back because I don't think anything's there yet. But I've had people throughout my whole life that they might even realize, but I've just absorbed and took everything in like a sponge. And it was my first pretty much working job with the Paralympic sport back in 2012 again, that I was working with them guys, and I was there actually in more of a coaching role to help out for obviously the Paralympic Games in London as well. And I ended up spending a few days with the guy that was the partnership leader, and he brought in like Vuk Zlatarov and but like, I can't remember, something like P&G, a number of these different like major brands, and I think it was like 90 million or something like that they brought in. And I was listening to obviously these meetings. At the time, being about 17 or so, I was just kind of like taking it all in. I never realized that that's kind of like where I wanted to be, kind of like having this kind of discussions. And then when I came here, I'd set up my own little thing at the time, another kind of fitness venture. And then that's how me and Amir kind of got friends with Jado Pato, brought us in there. I pretty much worked there for nothing at the very start, and did about just under 2 years in that company. And in that time I got to work with him, but also his brother Omar, who obviously was CEO and was running everything. And it was just interesting to see his view on the company, and then to go from one company that was successful, if you look at, they sold their company to Noon,
Jado Pato
to Noon, I then worked with Faraz, who was the CEO of Noon, and then Alabar was kind of looking after the other side of the components. Obviously, they put like $1 billion into this company, and we were kind of looking at.
Did you stay with them?
I did 6 months, and then the day that we launched, I left. So we stayed there for that 6 months because I liked the operational side of it. You know what I mean? I wanted to learn all these things. They mightn't see it, but I actually took in a lot at the time. It just, the way that Faraz handled his team, worked with his team, and I compared both Omar and Faraz together, which they might enjoy that, but I took a lot from that. And it's amazing to see how people just react with their team, about how they develop the company. And I kind of looked at it from more of a corporate side with Noon. And for me personally, that's just not what I was interested with. And that's, one of my good friends was sitting next to me building his restaurant in Dubai, which he ended up buying from Bitcoin. And we were always dealing.
This is an interesting
and
fact.
I completely understand.
So he bought the restaurant from Bitcoin.
He had told us in 2016 to all invest in Bitcoin. None of us did it. $400 a coin. I bought like one or two. He had bought a ridiculous amount, and then now he has a few restaurants in Dubai, and they're all from Bitcoin start.
Mike down, huh?
Exactly. I was just like, why did I not do that? But while we were at that time, he was developing that company, and it was just sparking the interest of being around that kind of thing. And for me, honestly, being back home, I probably would never had these opportunities or been around these people. And then that's when we went off to build the fitness company. Then after that,
but that's interesting that you say now, talking about people that you surround yourself with, and then a lot of, and I can say now, us came from, from maybe societies or surroundings which were not so kind of inspiring, or
not inspiring, but I think the character that it made me is amazing. And I think everyone kills me now because my accent isn't really like from back home anymore.
Can you go home now? Or
if I went home now, I get in trouble a little bit. A few people give out. I think it's because I've come here and just conversing completely with different people. But
definitely people that you surround yourself with motivate you and push you forward, and it's I'm completely like believe it's accurate that you are an average of 5 people that you surround yourself with, and you can see it. Like if you change your surrounding in a couple of months, you're going to see a change on yourself. And I think that's super interesting and important. So let's talk a bit more in kind of deep dive into Farfill. Can you just explain me and listeners what the Farfill is and what you guys are doing and how you're planning to kind of change the landscape of the fulfillment service here in?
It's not that, as I said, we're not really changing it as such. Like, there's been fulfillment centers. It's running the operations for people, but trying to do it on a complete e-commerce spec. We have obviously big clients that have really good like e-commerce platforms already. Like, I can say even marketplaces. That was Jado Pato was, but then people have their own individual stores. and we're starting to see the emergence of that come into the region. People be able to build their own stores, market it themselves, and not really need the need of anywhere else to get traffic.
It's a lot more easier today than it was like a couple of years back, right?
There's just so many tools right now.
Yeah,
like it's just so much simpler. But still, what people are struggling with is the operational side. Again, be able to have your team, the tech that we just pretty much made it a very simple. Like we're made our own process. People plug into our process. There is certain companies, yes, we do change our operation for. But the idea is that look, you plug in your company this side. Whenever you get an order on your website, we'll get the product to your customer.
Wow.
And like you can, like it is simple, but to do it right on a large scale, of course, that's what.
So what does it take if I'm an average business owner wanting to sell online, or what are the elements of the shipping that I would need to cover myself if I don't want to work with you? Like, can you like unpack that process for us a bit more?
Yes.
Like, what does it take?
So obviously you've got your setup, which is obviously get your license, get your e-commerce license, make sure it's for the right category of products, which of course you've got to look after that. Then operationally having your products either come from like the free zone to the mainland, and whether they're going to go cross borders also. Secondly, like having a proven track record.
If I'm selling online, do I need to have a mainland, or I can have?
It depends where you're going to sell to. So whether
if
you're
I sell out of the free zone.
If you want to sell out of the free zone, you need to have a mainland license. But then if you want to do mainland, going to go international, then there's another license, and that's going to be needed for that. For deliveries, then of course you've no proven track record, so your delivery cost is going to be. It can be some of them. I've seen some people come to me and show me the rates, and I'm just like
the rates that they get from a typical or average courier.
So
if I just approach them out of nowhere, they're going to quote me probably significantly higher.
And especially if you're looking at certain regions, like we're in the middle of just building a new case study. I think we've hit 63 countries now that we've done all our international orders to. It was funny, a year ago when we were doing like maybe 10 hours a day or whatnot, that's what it was. Our biggest place was Puerto Rico from Dubai. So like you can open yourself to completely new markets just being here. So for us, we can just get you lower shipping pricing. You're not then paying for staff on top of that.
So basically, if I would need to have storage, I would need to have a deal with the courier. I would need to have staff to manage my storage and products, packaging,
inventory management, packaging. There's a number of just kind of different. Some people want special wrapping, gifting, and all that thing for your products. We look after kind of all that process for you.
Nice. So you're just like a one-stop shop, plug and play backend system.
We're pretty much trying to become a plugin.
For all this boring stuff. All you need to do is take the money, you know.
Put it to us. But then again, you're actually saving so much cost. Like, it's unfortunate that's fortunate for us right now, but we're seeing, and it's a really, obviously, it's great for us as a business, but it's really bad to see for other businesses that are now starting to shut down. And we're seeing companies that are going from 300-400 staff that are looking to downsize to maybe 10% of that, and that means getting rid of sometimes their warehousing, which was being like if they're only doing a few hundred orders, there's no point in them having a fully automated warehouse. And that's where coming to us is obviously an approach for them, a cheaper alternative, downsizing them as a company, and we kind of take away the headache and the processes that they were obviously having in-house. And they probably had to have a huge team for that to make sure everything was happening. And then we're, on the same time, we're trying to find that person's solutions, and we're trying to find different areas for them to be able to sell, trying to get it across border.
So you're acting more as a partner really than actually kind of a service provider, or just
we're a fulfillment center first of all, right, in operation, and we're not a partner, but it's just something that we like to work with startups. Again, an established company, the main brands, they're probably not going to come with us, but the startups are, and we've got some amazing startups, and that's probably the passion that comes with with this kind of job, is that you listen to, I think we have like 38 clients right now, and every one of them has a different story of a different entrepreneur and a different product, and we kind of look at it and goes, that one's going to work, that one's not going to work, and we're seeing them grow, and that's kind of like that's an amazing thing to watch that unfold.
Absolutely,
and like we're both aligning ourselves and their business together, and that's, and
especially today, there must be. Did you notice the growth in the number of established now companies or startups since the whole crisis started? And how does this?
They call me on a daily basis. So no, literally everyone is now becoming an entrepreneur.
Aware.
We tell everyone they should do that though. Obviously putting your brand within amongst all the other brands. You're drawing kind of probably the credibility of your own product. Although you might get a number of sales, you got to look at the longevity of like, do you get to own your customer? Is your customer then, are you going to have that relationship with them going forward? And where do you see this in like 5 years, 6 or 7 years? And probably now speak to me, I'm now looking at the long-term picture of companies like this and how they can be established. And
it depends, right, on the type of the company, the size of the company, number of transactions, how strong your brand is.
But then it's when you look at products that don't have a shelf life, or it's not even that they have shelf life, the company is based on, so say a subscription-based company. We love a subscription-based company. They know exactly like if
so subscription-based company is the type of business where I subscribe to a certain product that is being delivered to me like once a month, once a week, or
and there's certain products that always, like groceries will always have to be done like that. Baby care will, like certain products, and that will always have to be done every month. And same for even people grooming and things like that. It's the same thing. And we have a few companies like that, and they know exactly how much product to put in the warehouse at every given time, which reduces their storage costs. And then after that, we know exactly how many orders are going out at that time. We might be left with like 4 or 5 extra pieces. And they're
optimization
so conscious
maximum,
of it. Exactly, they're maximizing the profits from that. And it's something that we're talking with a few guys in Europe, like some of the like industry leaders right now. And we're looking at what tech they're using and the support they're giving to clients. And we now are starting to bring that here. And like now we have clients some clients that have left stuff with us for 6 months to a year right now, and we're charging them. They're paying every month. We don't want to do that anymore. We want like your products.
So they're just storing their products with you? Or?
No, they're trying to sell it. But they've now got the operational side down with us. But now there's something else they need to look at: the marketing or the
where you are not involved.
Exactly. It's nothing to do with us. And in that case, we're trying to now push people to say, look, please just take your products back. Our average shelf life for some products is like 6 months. So a SKU rate, that's kind of the way we look at it. And that's how you're going to fully kind of get the benefits of what we're doing. Saving your costs to optimize your profits as much as you can.
What's your plan for developing further? Are you going to add more services? Are you going to expand more warehouses?
I think we just want to get this process completely down. We're going to bring a little bit more tech. At the moment, we're doing a few things off the shelf that we want to bring kind of our own tech a little bit. But again, we're going to bring that to the next warehouse. So probably the next place is probably moving to Saudi or Europe right now. So our sales at the moment are juggled between there, about 50-50. Some of the most orders that we get. We've got some huge US companies that want to come here at the moment and fulfill their companies in the US, even though having a company here, which is interesting.
But how can that be possible? Like, where are they saving on the cost?
It's just a volume of orders that they're doing to certain areas. Look how many flights are leaving Dubai on a daily basis going to the US. So it's not today. Not at the moment, but they're going to be coming back soon. You know, we've found it with friend's company that he's got from Hong Kong to here, and it's cheaper for him to do his operational there. But that's just because of the certain product that he has. We just have found now these rates, and we're pretty much going with it. And we've got so many companies now that are interested and like the idea behind it. It does mean with the time difference, I stay up a little bit later at night. But it's just one of them things.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Well, I think you're in a good place with the industry that you're in and the service that is booming. And I think that the whole crisis accelerated this whole transformation pace for a couple of years. I think you're definitely in a good place. But you started another business which is also quite interesting, which is a
swim
short brand.
So iAlife was this product that 3 of us have come together to kind of like to find. We had this amazing idea of building it, and we're going to use like a certain fabric. We had researched a little bit of fabric, a recyclable material that you can take it from the plastic. So the idea was like from the ocean for the ocean. COVID came, it crashed absolutely everything, but we did pre-sales before that.
Well, you did Tesla thing, huh?
Pretty much. We just wanted to see
swimsuit, you know.
Well, we did this, and we had the manufacturing down, but it's not easy to just get. You have to like hold a place pretty much to get that fabric out, because everyone right now, there's so many companies that are building on similar fabric. This one was a bit more niche because it had to be fast drying material. We had gone to source that. COVID, again, as I said, slowed all the operations from there. We then had quite a number of pre-orders. We had to turn everything around probably when we're just coming out of coronavirus, in Dubai anyway.
Yeah.
And we have a little video now of us as you walk around Sharjah trying to find new prints, trying to find accessories. You'd be surprised how to find like certain products and stuff like that. We found a manufacturer in Dubai. He's working with us now to get it all done. We're still trying to have this element of getting everything just as clean as possible and bringing it here, trying to get some parts of this fabric over here. The first round is probably not exactly going to be there. And we're launching with like 400% a decline in the sale of swim shorts at the moment. Well, because who is leaving the house or who's been going on holidays this year. Yeah. So we find it like it's an interesting challenge for us, but again, I'll be hoping that we can build on it. We're going to put a few different little products.
And obviously you have the whole fulfillment part sorted out.
We have the operational part.
You're leveraging that.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the goal with the do you have like a long-term goal with this? What do you want
to? So like, there's amazing swim short brands for different locations. You've got Saint-Tropez, you've got Miami, you've got a number of different areas. One big one that comes from Dubai. We have some friends, very fortunate, that have a lot of retailers here in Dubai. So we have some retailers already in the bank right now. So hopefully next week or the next 2 weeks, got some friends that have other subscription services and we're going to be in with them. So you're going to see it everywhere in the next like 3 weeks.
I'm going to put the link in the description of this video. I want to refer a link. Every purchase that comes from the Change Vlog, we want a commission.
Brilliant.
Man, the conversation was amazing, super insightful. I have one last question before we wrap up, and that's obviously I can feel, and I'm sure that everyone who watched this episode will feel that you have an amazing energy, you're positive, you're driven, there is no stop for you. What's your recipe for staying focused, positive, dedicated in life and just chasing the dream?
This is a probably completely different spin-off from it, but is that, look, there's ups and downs all the time. I think too much of today's even society and everything dwells on kind of like the negatives and this bad thing that happened, and never march on and see like the positives out of every day. It might be the smallest things, but if you keep calculating them up, then small things become a big thing, and I think that's how you achieve. You see a small building block every day. We add a new person to the team in a day. You have a new friend in a day, and that's all part of the amazing thing of, I suppose, life. I know that's a bit deep, but
amazing.
I think it's just step by step.
Thank you for coming.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me.
Thanks everyone. Stay tuned. Next episode next Monday. See you then. Take care. Bye.